empty street, and we weren't allowed to play in the front yard. The street was probably where you are, Sue. And, you know, we had the flower bed, and so we weren't even allowed out there. But if you went out the basement back door, I had this wonderland behind me. And it was about an acre of yard with a path that went down to the yard from the back basement door with honeysuckle along both sides of the pathway. And then surrounding the backyard was woods. And there was a creek that ran down the side of the yard, and the woods went through, and then behind us, I'm really bad with distances, but a certain distance back, then there were houses along the back street. So I had this park playground as a kid, and would hang out in the yard and swing on the swings and pull up the stones in the creek, look for salamanders, and get all muddy and soaked. And we had an apple tree with a really simple little tree house that I'd climb up and sit up there and tell stories and stuff like that. And a perfect day for me as a kid was to get up in the morning, and I always had chores. There were 5 of us, and I was the 4th of 5, and I have 2 older sisters and an older brother. So my older sisters did all the cleaning inside, the dusting and the vacuuming. My brother did the lawn mowing, and I came along and decided I liked outside better than inside. So I can't dust or vacuum, but I can mow a mean lawn and cut a mean hedge. So my chores were typically to cut the honeysuckle along the path. We had ivy growing up the other stairs and steps. We had a patio with ivy all around, so I had cutting all the time. As soon as my chores were done, I got my swimsuit and my towel, wrapped them up, stuck them in a bag of some sort, said goodbye to my mom, and headed off to the local neighborhood pool, which was probably about a half an hour walk away. And I'd go down through our backyard, into the woods, along the path through the woods, through the neighbor's backyard, past their front house and the street that went around the back, past this great cherry tree that when it was in bloom, you could crawl up and just eat cherries and get a little bit of a stomachache, but it didn't matter. It was just, they were fabulous. Go down their street, which was a not paved, dirt street, to the end of that. Then you had another little patch of woods, passed a little bit more, and then there were other dead ends that you walked by, crossed over the creek, went up a hill, and then there was a path through this field full of wildflowers and birds and weeds and bees and mosquitoes and everything. But it smelled, you know, that great field smell with the wildflowers. It was fabulous. And so you'd have to walk along that path. And by that point, you were really hot. You were dying to get to the pool. And as you went along the side of the mountain, then you came back down, crossed back over the creek, and ended up in the parking lot of the local neighborhood swimming pool. And then there was a tennis court there. You went up the path a little bit more, went into the pool gates, and you were supposed to rinse off, which I probably did one of those, you know, rinsed off, and then dove in the pool and cooled off. And I would spend the whole day at that club. I played basketball, I was on the swim team, I did synchronized swimming, water ballet, because I was really slow, but I was very buoyant. I just loved being in the water. Would hang out there, eat lunch, flirt, play with the boys in junior high. You know, that was the place to hang, right? The better the bathing suit, the better the tan. And then, you know, by the time I wasn't expected home until dinner. And I'd walk back home and have dinner, and sometimes I'd go back to the pool more than once a day. If we had team practice in the morning, I might be there in the morning, go home and do my chores, come back. Sometimes at night, if we had a late swim, oh, those were like the coolest, the late swims, because they'd turn all the lights and then the lights in the pool, and that was really good flirting time. And then you'd, of course, have to have a ride home from that. Okay, little story. Open your handouts to the first page. Everybody can still hear me okay? If you look at the top of that page, the 3 things we're going to work on are, number 1, why are stories so powerful? Why stories? Number 2, how can we listen strategically to a story? So why is it called strategic storytelling and not just storytelling? And number 3, how can strategic storage